Jai Hind bachcho. Today we'll do one more topic of chapter 6, that is tissue of class 9, and the topic is animal tissues. So in previous video we studied plant tissues. Here we'll discuss animal tissues. So in animal tissues, on the basis of functions, these are classified into 4 types, right? So the way they function, they are classified into 4 types: the epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscular tissues, and nervous tissues. So we'll study one by one, right? So first we'll take this epithelial tissue, right? So what's its function? Its main function is protection, right? So if somebody protects, then where it present, naturally that covers it. So they are covering and protective tissues. Okay. So in animals, so most of the organs, uh, like stomach, your intestine, your kidneys, these are organs. So they most of the organs, like, and cavities means like lining of the stomach. It's, if you see the structure of stomach, how it looks like, if we'll draw from the top, like this is esophagus, that is food pipe, right? And this way we draw the stomach, J shape, right? So this is the stomach which has cavity. So it's lining, right? So this lining is also covered by epithelial tissues, like lining of this tube, that esophagus also covered by epithelial tissue. So wherever there is a cavity in the body, it is covered by epithelial tissues. Clear? So epithelial tissue, these are the covering tissues naturally, and they are protective tissues. And see, so how it is protecting organs, like they forms a barrier. Clear? So everything has to pass through these epithelial tissue. Whatever has to enter into the body, right? Or something is moving out of the body or between the organs, they have to pass at least one lining of epithelial tissue. See? So whatever comes to stomach, comes to esophagus, or you can say kidney or intestine, or any organ. If you just talk about your skin, right? So if it's something has to pass through the enter into the body, it has to pass through the skin also. The skin is also epithelial tissue, right? So these forms a barrier. Everything has to pass through this barrier. And this, so it forms a barrier to keep different body systems separate, right? So it is not at a case anything can pass through the any organ. So these cells are selectively permeable. They will allow something to pass, they will restrict something, and that depends on these tissues, epithelial tissue. So if we take an example, the most common example, if we talk about the skin, right? So it's a covering tissue, and protecting also. It is protecting our internal organs. Everything is protected by, has to cover from outside. Everything is covered by skin, thin layer of skin, okay? And then lining of mouth, that is also epithelial tissues, right? Lining of blood vessels, right? So you must know about the blood. The blood runs in vessels, right? So its lining also covered by epithelial tissue. Lung alveoli, so you will study more about the structure of these lungs alveoli in your higher classes. So through this alveoli, exchange of gases occur. Oxygen enters into our body, carbon dioxide moves out. So these also covered by these alveoli, these epithelial tissues. Kidney tubules, right? These kidneys, where the blood is filtered and waste moves out in the form of urine. So these tubules are also made up of these epithelial tissues. So what is the structure? See, so the cells has to be tightly packed, right? So if they have to protect internal organs, they have to be tightly packed. So cells are tightly packed, and form a continuous sheet. There is no gap, so no intercellular spaces. And they have only small amount of cementing material. So the thickness is also very less. So because they are not the thing that they protect, they will not allow anything to enter. They will allow something to enter and restrict something, so that cementing material is less, so that things can pass also, right? So they act as a guard. There's a barrier. They don't restrict everything. It's not that they won't allow anything to enter. See, they restrict something and they allow something. So this amount of cementing material is small. So means anything is entering our body or leaving, right? So they have to cross at least a layer of epithelium. I think this much is clear to you all. And what will enter, what will move out, it will depend on the permeability of the cell, right? So that play an important role. The cells, they are permeable. Permeability means they are allow something to enter and they restrict something from entering into the body or into the organ. So their permeability play important role in regulating the exchange of material between the body and the external environment, right? And also between the different parts of the body also, right? And now with this, is it all the epithelial tissue are of the same type? Wherever there is a covering, all cells are same type. Now that question arises. But it's not like that. So the epithelial tissue, according to the function, the shape of the cells varies. So how it is, we'll see now. So like wherever there is a function of transportation, clear? So the cells are very simple, okay? And they are flat. So if you see the structure, cells are like this, they are flat and thin. So they have like this basement layer, and this basement layer present in all epithelial tissues. This is fibrous. So on this base, wherever there are epithelial tissue, this basement layer is present. On that basement layer, cells are there. See, this is fibrous basement layer, and there's a cells. So where there is a transportation of substances. Transportation of substances means, like if you see in lung alveoli. In lung alveoli, gases moves, like carbon dioxide moves out of the body and oxygen enter into our body, right? Or you can say lining of the mouth or esophagus. So, or lining of blood vessels. In the blood also act as a transport, like as through these vessels, blood waste is also move out from the body. Exchange of gases occur. Food is also transported through the blood only. So this lining of these blood vessels, so they are made up of these thin cells, right? So cells are thin and single layer, right, and flat, right? So these are called simple squamous epithelium. So where transportation of substances occur, there is a simple flat kind of epithelium, and this is called simple squamous epithelium. And structure is like this, and the cells are thin and flat cells, and they form a delicate lining. Naturally, if cells can't be thick or multi-layered, because the role of these vessels or alveoli, so their role is in the transportation. So things has to move from these from blood to different organ, from different organ to blood. So they has to cross a barrier. The barrier has to be thin, right? Barrier has to be there, but has to be thin so that things can transport, right? So this type of epithelium is present in the blood vessels, lung alveoli. Clear? And same thing is in the skin also. Same type of cells are present in skin. They're flat and thin, but they are in many layers, right? So if you say there's a fibrous basement layer and the cells in the skin, they are many layers. See, because why they are in layers? Because wear and tear of the skin occurs, right? So skin is the outermost layer of the body. So there wear and tear happens. So cells has to be, skin has to be a many layered thick. So their cells are arranged in many layers. So these are called stratified squamous epithelium, right? So naturally the cells are thin, flat, but they are stratified. Stratified means they are in layers. Okay. So in skin, the epithelial cells are arranged in many layers. And why? To prevent wear and tear. See, and name is they are called stratified squamous epithelium. So now another one is, so in the body we know there absorption occur, secretion also occur. Clear? So where there are absorption and secretion, the cells are like this column shape. These are tall, same basement, fibrous basement membrane or layer. Okay, and these are the column shaped cells, right? These are tall cells. Clear? And nuclei is at the bottom, right? And they are with these finger-like projection, that is cilia, or without cilia, both. So these column-shaped cells, they are called the columnar epithelium. Simple name is columnar epithelium because their shape is a column-like. Right? So their role is in absorption and secretion, where mostly they are present mostly in the organ of digestive tract. What is the digestive tract? There's a esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So everywhere these columnar epithelium cells, their lining of stomach, lining of small intestine, lining of large intestine, lining of esophagus. So there these column shaped cells are present. These are called columnar epithelial tissues. And their role is in they absorb, right? They absorb digested food, and they secrete also. What they secrete? Like in the intestine, they will secrete intestinal juices. In stomach, so how they'll secrete? They have glands, right? So these cells only they act as a gland, like this cell. So there is a secretion is there. So we call these are glands. So they secrete. Their role is absorption and secretion, and their shape is column-like. And in some places, these cells, they have cilia. So where? In the respiratory tract. And what is the role of these cilia? So these cilia role is to move and push the mucus forward to clear the tract, respiratory tract. So, and this, because of the presence of the cilia in this columnar epithelium, we call them ciliated columnar epithelium. Clear? So, I hope this is clear to you. So, now next is cube shapes. So, these are called cuboidal epithelium cells. Cuboidal epithelium. Why? The cells are cube-shaped cells. Their role is also in secretion, absorption and secretion. But basically they are present in the kidney tubules. and in salivary glands. And they give mechanical support also, and they don't have cilia. Right? So cube shape. Clear? And their role is also in absorption and secretion and give mechanical support. So, and one more thing is there, like we talked about here in a, like the cells, they act as a gland. Gland means they secrete juices, digestive juices, or what their secretion is goes to the body, and their function is different. Every gland's function is different. So these glands, if the single cell convert into gland, so they can be made up of, glands can be made up of single cell, or they can be of multicellular. How can it be a multicellular? At some time what happens, this whole epithelial tissue, it turns inward, right? Or it folds inwards, and it forms a structure like this. So now this this portion has secretion. Clear? So this gland is multicellular, right? This, if single cell forms into a gland, this is called the unicellular gland. But at times what happens, a portion of epithelium folds inward and a multicellular gland is formed. This is called glandular epithelium. So these are the specialization of epithelial tissue or epithelial cells. The epithelial cells they often acquire additional specialization as gland cells, right? And if it's a single cell, so they or can be multicellular. So these multicellular glands form, this is called glandular epithelium, right? And they secrete substances at epithelial surface. Clear? So I hope this epithelial tissue is clear to you, and we'll do next tissue in next video. Thank you students. Thank you so much.